When you think about traditional college basketball states, you could think of Indiana, Kentucky, North Carolina, dare I even sprinkle in a Connecticut. Well, you better start thinking about the state of Alabama, too, a state synonymous with the gridiron, has grown into the epicenter of college basketball. Please, would you step aside Nick Saban, Cam Newton, Bo Jackson, and even Broadway Joe? There's a new show in town, and this one is played on the hardwood. It's the Crimson Tide versus War Eagle, Toomer's Corner versus Dixieland Delight. It is the real Iron Bowl as we welcome you to Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. Alongside Harry Lyles Jr., I am Sam Ravech. A great game coming up for you. We're going to talk all about it. Joe Lunardi is sitting 10 feet away from us. He will join us at the end of the show. We got Jay Williams coming on as well, Lyles. You got to go back just over 10 years, 2013. Alabama and Auburn played against each other. The final score of that game in 2013, 49-37.
Ugh.
Just over 10 years later, these are two of the most prolific offenses in college basketball. It's just an amazing transition.
Yeah, hopefully we don't see a score like that
today.
Because
it might be the score at halftime.
Yeah, that would be very disappointing. That should only be a football score now. I never want to see that in college basketball ever again.
Yeah. On Tuesday of this week, head coach for Alabama, Nate Oates, decided to prepare his team for this game by showing them clips of Tom Brady and Nick Saban talking about how they would prepare for the big game. The message being, Lyles, that if you prepare for every single game the same way, you don't really have to prepare for the big game because you are already prepared for such events. Try telling that to the thousands of fans screaming their heads off inside Coleman Coliseum behind Andraya Carter right now. Dre, I get the sense and the vibe that the fans get how big of a game this actually is for their program.
Yeah, absolutely. The fans have 100% showed out. It is so crazy to think about Auburn and Alabama being the talk of the nation, the talk of the SEC. And I would say these fans are ready for their team to put on a show.
You know, Dre, I usually have some well-thought-out question for you when we do this. I really just need you. I have a request personally. Can you give the people a countdown to 3, and can I get a big old roll damn Tide from the crowd?
Okay, did y'all hear that? Can everybody hear that? All right, so on 3, we're getting a roll damn Tide. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's all you needed. That's all we needed, Andrea.
Anything for you, Harry.
Yep, thank you so much. We'll see you on College Game Day.
Guys. All right, see ya.
They're ready to go. They're ready to go. Yeah, amazing. By the way, these two teams have won 6 of the last 8 SEC regular season and/or SEC tournaments. Like, these are the premier programs in this conference right now, and here they are, 1 versus 2. It should be a race to 90 points inside Coleman today. All right, we're going to get back to that game in just a bit, Lyles, but in the meantime, play a little Saturday shoot-arounds, shall we? We're going to give you a fresh 30-second shot clock. We got 30 seconds on the shot clock. I got 3 questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
And we have this little buzzer here in case one of us wants to chime in or chime out, dare I say. And then we'll switch sides, too. So first question, first topic to you, Clemson upsetting Duke in Littlejohn Coliseum last week. That snapped a 16-game winning streak for the Duke Blue Devils. Does it say more about Duke, or does it say more about Clemson?
I'm making it about Clemson for a couple of reasons. One, I just appreciate the fact that Clemson showed up, because that was Dickie V's first game back.
Yeah.
To give us an upset was fantastic, but Brad Brownell has done such a good job with this Clemson team. They've gotten better every single year the last few years. You know, they've always been good for an upset here or there. An NIT a couple of years ago, an Elite 8 last year, and now this is a team that is clearly a threat among what has obviously been a weaker ACC conference. But, you know, I was also just not going to not make this about Clemson because, you know, Brad Brownell, he's from Evansville, Indiana, went to William Henry Harrison High School, played with Calvert Chaney, so I got to give my guys some credit. This is all about Clemson.
I mean, they went to the Elite 8 last year, so that was an impressive team, impressive upset there. All right, Indiana, stunning Michigan State inside Breslin earlier this week. How concerned are you about Sparty's distinct inability to shoot the 3 ball this year?
Look, I'm definitely concerned because it is clearly an issue for them. And it's one of these things where Michigan State, they're still winning games despite having this particular issue. It is just so hard for me to wrap my 2025 basketball brain around the fact that you could be as poor as they are at shooting threes and then still have the expectation that you are going to go deep into the tournament. And that is really not even a college basketball thing. That is just a basketball thing, period. We don't do that math anymore where you can't shoot the 3-pointer.
I'm hitting the buzzer. Offensive foul. I'm taking a charge here because this is so unbelievable. This stat I'm about to read to you is an actual stat. Michigan State ranks 348th out of 355 teams in three-point field goal percentage. Guess where they rank in free throw percentage? Third in the nation.
That's so poor.
I don't understand how that can actually be a thing, but nevertheless, we move on. Coach of the year. Look, we have talked about Janai Broome and Cooper Flagg as the two-man race for player of the year. The same cannot be said for coach of the year. There are so many different possibilities.
Yeah.
If the season were to end today, who gets coach of the year?
You know, I wanted to go Pat Kelsey here, but I can't help but look at Bruce Pearl and be like, dude, I got to give it to you, man. Not just because of how good they've been on the basketball court. We remember the plane incident. You and I were talking about this before the show. I had completely forgotten that was
a lot of people have.
So keeping the train on the tracks, and for this team to be as consistently as good as they have been, and then even for a player like Janai Broome to see the leap that he has taken this year, to be as consistent as he's been, obviously has a big opportunity in front of himself today. I've got to go with Bruce Pearl and what he's done to make Auburn a basketball school.
Just in at the buzzer. Well done, Lyles. Those are your three right there.
You know, I tend to do it. Let's switch possessions, though.
All right.
Okay. Unranked UConn, your boys.
Yes.
They get their first ever win at Creighton. Dan Hurley's doing Dan Hurley things. Have your boys finally turned the corner?
First off, you had to throw in the unranked there, which I appreciate. But yes, the jury is still out, I think, on the UConn Huskies. They just had their toughest stretch of the season. They go 2-1 at Marquette, home against St. John's, and at Creighton. Ironically enough, they lose the only game that they had at home in that stretch. But I think Liat McNeely being back just reminds everybody how important he is to this team. 38 points, 10 rebounds in the win at Creighton. Problem being, Creighton doesn't force a lot of turnovers, and UConn doesn't have a healthy point guard. So against teams that will apply ball pressure, that's a bad combo for the UConn Huskies. And you know what? Damn it, Lyles, I'm hitting the buzzer again. I got an offensive rebound.
More.
I need more time because you know how sick I am on Valentine's Day. My wife's out of town. I rewatched the UConn Final Four and the national championship game each of the last 2 years. 4 games I watched last night on Friday. That's what I did on my Valentine's Day. I'm sick. And you know what I saw? You know what I saw in those, Lyles? I saw Alex Caravan calling for the ball. You know what he's not doing this year? Calling for the ball. Alex, you are a 2-time national champion. You can shoot the ball. Please shoot the ball 50 times against Seton Hall
Just
today.
to pull the curtain back, they said I needed to hear that live, and I understand it now.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, we talked about the National Player of the Year race a little bit with Cooper Flagg, Janai Broome. You feel that there's a player who might not be getting enough attention in this race. Who's that?
Well, Purdue has had the last 2 National Player of the Year award winners, obviously, in Zach Edey. Zach Edey is gone, but Braden Smith is still there, and I think that he is deserving of a Player of the Year nod. And the reason being, he's the best point guard, I think, in the entire country this year. Point guard, because he's averaging 8.5 assists per game, which leads all power conference players. Purdue started the season 8-4, Lyles, 8-4. Since they have gone 11-2. And Braden Smith, that guy right there, is the exact reason why this Purdue team is at the top, near the top of the Big Ten right now.
Fantastic beard as well.
Really good. Yeah.
I mean, we love a well-groomed point guard.
Yeah, it's improved over the years.
And then last one for you, Kansas State was one of the all-time vibes teams,
yes,
right, from the tournament a couple of years ago. This year, they started off very poorly.
Yes.
I mean, it was shocking, honestly.
Right.
But they have absolutely turned that thing around. What do you see out of Kansas State?
The Octagon of Doom had started out the season as the Octagon of Gloom because they just were not very good this year. But now, all of a sudden, over the last 3 weeks, Kansas State, statistically speaking, has been playing like the best team in the country. The best team in the country. Not one of the best teams in the country. So, look, Kansas State is the perfect example of what this new world of college basketball looks like. They bring in 10 new players, transfer portal players, one of the best transfer portal classes. It takes time, Lyles. It takes time for them to gel. I'm not so sure that they're even going to make a run in the tournament this year, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. So for
sure.
Yeah. Wow, that was a pretty good quick shoot around. I like that. Good stuff. All right, we got the huge game coming up. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, or other way around. Number 1, Auburn. Number 2, Alabama coming up. Although they are number 1, number 2 in the coaches poll, so essentially it could be 1 and 1. Jess Sims got a chance to catch up with head coach Bruce Pearl ahead of the big one.
Coach, in your locker room, it says make history, and you've done just that. This is the first 1v2 matchup in the SEC. What does it say about your guys and about the conference in general?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're not in Knoxville, Tennessee, or Lexington, Kentucky, or even Gainesville, Florida. We're in Alabama for Auburn. The Iron Bowl, 1 versus 2. It just says that both programs have just gotten so competitive. This game used to mean a lot here in the state of Alabama. It now means a lot throughout the country.
Absolutely. Well, you were just talking about other teams. This is not your first rodeo with a 1v2 matchup or within the same state lines. 17 years ago when you beat Memphis on the road with Tennessee, what did you learn from that experience and how are you bringing that into this matchup?
Well, I remembered I thought I had to give our kids some confidence that they could actually go to Memphis and beat that team. Don't forget, that team lost in a national championship game to Kansas. Memphis only lost 2 games that year. One was to Tennessee, and one was the last game of the year. I didn't know if we were the best team in the country then, and I don't know if we're the best team in the country right now either. But I did know that if we had beaten Memphis there on that night, we'd be ranked number 1. And so I'll give my kids some confidence. We got to show them a game plan where they make sure they understand if we do these things, we got a chance to win this game.
Well, what are these things? What are the must-dos for this game?
I can't tell you all that. I'm going to tell you all that stuff. Nate's going to be listening to this right now. So listen, both teams are terrific offensively. The team that guards and the teams that rebounds is going to be the team that's going to win this game.
Thank you so much, Coach, and good luck.
Welcome. Glad you're here.
All right, let's bring in College Game Day's very own and national champion in his own right, Jay Williams. Jay, this is the 171st iteration of Alabama and Auburn on the basketball court, but none of the previous 170 have been of this magnitude. How do we get here? How do we get to the point where Alabama and Auburn, Alabama is the basketball state of the world right now?
I think first off, guys, the fact that we have Hall of Fame coaches here, and I think they will both be in the Hall of Fame. I think both Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates are 2 of the best coaches we have in college basketball. You think about the way Nate Oates has really turned this program into something different with the top NBA draft picks he's brought here, and the likes of whenever you talk to players, everybody wants to get to the next level. And you hear conversations around NBA franchises, around data and analytics, and the style of play. That's meaningful. We talked to Aiden Holloway yesterday, and he was talking about if you want to come here and shoot threes and get layups and find ways to increase the pace of the game, that's the way they love how to play. And when you think about Bruce Pearl and his style of play, the average wingspan on their team defensively, how they operate, Janai Broome, an older team, 9 seniors, 10 guys averaging 10-plus minutes, the depth. That's how we got here. You're talking about the basketball power conference, not only in the conference, in the country, but in the world.
And Jay, in a 1-versus-2 matchup like this, obviously plenty of talent on the floor, plenty of strengths on both sides. What do you think is going to be the deciding factor in this particular matchup?
Well, I think, for Alabama, pace is going to be so imperative in this game, playing their style and pace, shooting up threes. And you have to go against the size of Auburn. Auburn is so good. But guys like Baker Mazzara challenging on the wings, their perimeter defenders are great at contesting three-point shots and actually pushing you further out in your offense. So it's going to come down to guard play, which it always comes down to for a team like Alabama, and also defensively for Alabama. Like, they're one of the stingiest teams defensively as well, and forcing Auburn to be uncomfortable. But it comes down to the sides, and can Alabama negate the sides of Auburn down low?
I want to ask you about a team that I think is just way too far off too many people's radars at this point of the season. Actually, not too far away from where you're standing right now. Penny Hardaway's Memphis Tigers on an 8-game win streak. The computer numbers don't love them, Jay, but they are 14th in strength of record right now. Which side of the fence do you fall on with Memphis?
I mean, I fall side on the fence, guys, that, it's about playing your best basketball at the most important time of the year. And for a team like Memphis, obviously they have guard play that, we saw them earlier in the year over at Maui. Haggerty and company can score with the best of them. Right, so when you think about having guard play that can score and finding their rhythm offensively and defensively, they gotten better too. At times, I think they played to the level of their competition. I was talking to Coach, Smitty. I call him Smitty. He talks about played at Duke Nolan Smith for a long time. The thing that makes them difficult is that when they play to the level of their competition, if they meet the right opponent on the wrong side of March Madness, they're going to be difficult for anybody to play against.
Absolutely, Jay. And the undercard to that game that you're at for today, Houston making the trip out to Arizona. Who do you like in that matchup and why?
I like Arizona for their sides. And look, I know they're coming off a loss, but still Arizona is one of these teams that I feel like they start off the season top 10 in the nation. Had a pretty hard turn at first. But when the ball moves, when the ball doesn't stick to Caleb Love's hands, I think they are better offensively. I know what they bring to the table defensively. And look, obviously Houston, one of the top teams in the nation as well defensively. But I think Arizona is also one of those teams that at times can play to the level of their competition. But it all starts with their guard play. And when their guard play is elite with their size they have down low, R.J. Lewis, another name to know, I think they're one of the best teams in the country.
We've had a lot of talk about the big men this year, whether it be Janai Broome or Cooper Flagg, although Cooper Flagg does a lot of ball handling for his team. Let's talk about your top 3 point guards or guards that are poised to lead their team to a national title this year. Who do you got in no particular order, Jay?
Okay, well, first off, I got to say, here are just my top 3 guards. I don't know if they're all going to lead their team to a national title this year, but just top 3 guards, I think, in college basketball. Number 1, I got to start with the big man right here on campus, and Mark Sears. I mean, I've watched his game progress over the years, and watching him understand better shot selection, watching him still be disciplined with getting to the rim, drawing fouls, averaging 15 points per game, in conference play, but still just being able to score with the best of them. And by the way, there's something about being a lefty in this game. It just throws you off rhythm-wise. And then my next guard in college basketball, I got to bring it back to the city and the state that I'm from. I got to give a shout out to Rutgers, New Jersey. And you think about a guy like Dylan Harper, he is special. Man, he is the son of Ron Harper, can get to wherever he wants to go on the court, very methodical in his approach, and he just does it differently, right? He's not a guy that plays uberly quick. He's a guy that methodically reminds me a little bit, and I'm not saying his game is similar, but a little bit of Jalen Brunson, just because he gets to his spots on the floor. Look, 2 lefties in a row, right? But playing methodically and slowly getting to your places and having great shot fakes and understanding a high basketball IQ, I think Dylan Harper is special. And then I think one of the guards that's really driving up the draft boards is a guy that plays at OU. It's Jeremiah Fears.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just a special, talented young player. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to put his team on his back to get to a Final Four, but talent-wise, I think those 3 guards, whether you want to call them point guards, shooting guards, I just call them guards, are probably 3 of the most special guards we have in college basketball.
All right, Jay, we'll get you out of here on this. I know you made a friend before that you let take a shot, and he missed it, so we'll give him a redemption time here, Jay.
All right, let's see if we can hit the rim. Let's see, pass.
Oh, good dish.
No.
Oh, boy.
Not a cash ball.
Yeah.
Wow, that was there was so much trash talk. What happened? Try again. One more, come on. Here we go. Let's hit the rim. Let's go. I believe in you. You're taking a lot of deep breaths. Now you're not going to hit the rim. All right.
Good effort, nevertheless. Jay,
I know what to tell you.
Always appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's check out today's Magic Moments covered by State Farm. Obviously, we got one of the biggest games ever in SEC history. Number 1, Auburn. Number 2, Alabama, Lyles. That got us thinking about some of the other 1 versus 2 matchups that we've seen in college basketball.
Yeah, well, the last time and the first time that College Game Day was on site for a 1 versus 2 matchup was February 23rd, 2008, when Bruce Pearl and his number 2 ranked Tennessee Volunteers took on John Calipari's number 1 ranked Memphis squad. Tennessee ended up getting that win 66-62 in a throw. Look at all the fabric on those jerseys.
A lot of fabric, a lot of long shorts there. Derrick Rose had a great game in that one, but just not enough to take down Bruce Pearl's Tennessee Volunteers. The last 1 versus 2 in-conference matchup back in 2016, this was the Buddy Hield show. 24 there for Oklahoma. He went off in this game, 46 points. Oklahoma somehow lost this game because Kansas had so many different pieces, but it was Kansas coming away 109-106 the final there.
In one of Perry Ellis's years of his decade at Kansas.
That's right.
Hey, let's give the Big Ten some love. February 25th, 2007, first-ranked Wisconsin was knocked off 49-48 by second-ranked Ohio State. Greg Oden, look at that. Mike Conley leading the way for the Buckeyes. That right there is a college basketball score.
Talk about fabric, too, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the Greg got the grainy video, too.
And that's where we're in between, where the jerseys were tight, shorts were still baggy.
That's right.
Very interesting time.
And, of course, wouldn't be a college basketball list without Duke, North Carolina. Last time these two met in the regular season, ranked 1 versus 2. First-ranked Duke upset second-ranked UNC in this one. This was Antoine Jamison's show. He scored 35 in a dominant 97-73 win, Lyles. So, obviously, we got some classic matchups. Whenever we see 1 versus 2, that is not surprising, Harry. But what are you looking forward to most in this matchup that we have today at 4 Eastern time?
I think for me, it is Janai Broome and seeing if he meets the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, he had the injury earlier this season. It sort of had him take a backseat to Cooper Flagg in the National Player of the Year race. He has a prime opportunity to take that back today with just a daunting performance. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What are you looking forward to?
I think for me, it's a player returning to play against his old team in Aiden Holloway. He was a freshman that played and started quite a few games for the Auburn Tigers and Bruce Pearl last year, but now he's coming off the bench for Nate Oates in Alabama, and he has come on strong, scored 18 points in the midweek against Texas, went 3 for 6 from beyond the arc. So that's what I'm looking forward today to seeing today. It's going to be a great matchup. There's no question about it. Can't wait to watch it. That's 4 Eastern time on ESPN. That was today's Magic Moment covered by State Farm. All right, let's take a look at the slate of games we got here today, Lyles. Anything kind of jump off the page? I mean, 6 and 13 is pretty good there between Houston and Arizona.
Yeah, the undercard is definitely one for me. That is right before the Auburn-Alabama game on ESPN. Still interested to see what the Fighting Pigs of Arkansas and Don Calipari are going to do here against Texas A&M because they've been playing some good ball.
They have been, but it all leads up to 4 Eastern time, number 1, number 2, Auburn versus Alabama.
Oh, that.
Auburn and Alabama primed to go head-to-head.
If you want to do anything for the Auburn family, you beat Alabama.
I've been hearing all week, it's going to be a war. And we built for all this.
Are you willing to do what it takes to be the beast?
Hey, hard, man.
Let's go! We got to go through that. And they got to go through us.
All right, Valentine's Day was yesterday, but we're going to celebrate today with a very happy Eagles fan, Joe Lunardi. Congratulations, Joe. Appreciate it. How you feeling, by the way?
I'm moving a little slowly still.
Yeah.
Big parade.
Obviously, and well-deserved as well. But, all right, so what we're going to do here with you, Joe, we're going to have some conversation hearts in the Valentine's Day theme. You know those things that taste like chalk and nobody likes them and have the sayings on them? We're going to have those, and you are going to give us, we're going to take turns giving corresponding teams and or team that relates to the saying on the conversation heart that pops up, okay? So you're going to start us off here. And
Nobody told me there was going to be math involved.
Well, math a little bit, a little
and not
science.
too much math. I'm still out here, too.
That's okay. All right, so our first conversation heart is your number 1. Now, I want to take it this way. Give us your number 1s, the 4 number 1s, and maybe your number 1 overall at the moment.
All right, that's before play Saturday.
Yeah, that's correct.
In order.
Yeah.
Auburn, Alabama, Duke, and Florida. 3 of those 4 from the SEC.
Is there a chance that we get all 4 SEC or no?
I don't think so because I think over the next month, I don't see that Duke can lose enough games to drop.
Yeah.
And we've got teams playing one another. Like I'm told there's a big SEC game
allegedly
today, for instance.
Yeah. It's a rumor.
It's a rumor.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your number 1. Very good. Lyles, next one.
Yeah.
Trust issues.
You know, Joe, I've developed trust issues with St. John's. And look, I am kind of being part of this younger generation. What have you done for me lately? And what have they done for us lately? Well, they lost to Villanova. And this is not the Villanova that Sam and I grew up on.
No, it's not.
This is not Jay Wright's Villanova. 80th in offensive efficiency rating on Ken Palm. They still play great defense, which, you know, my Indiana spirit loves.
You love it.
But should I have these trust issues with St. John's?
Not if you believe in Rick Pitino.
And I kind of do. And I kind of do.
All of the schools and all of the levels of basketball at which he succeeded. And here's my comp. We're all talking about Auburn, Alabama. 40 years ago, St. John's, Georgetown. 1 and 2 played 4 times that year, including the Final Four.
We weren't alive for that, so
trust me, I was there.
I hear you. Okay, very good. All right, next one we got coming back to you, Joe. Hot stuff. By the way, I love the music that we got going.
Yeah,
very soothing.
it's fantastic.
Hot stuff, Joe. What? Give me a team that relates to that.
I'm gonna go Dusty May and Michigan. If I said to you guys right now, who's in first place in the Big Ten? Would Michigan be right off your tongue?
Probably not.
They are by a half game, and they're 11-2 in the league. They're 13-2 in their last 15. And that win, you know, against the Boilermakers was noticeable.
It was, yeah.
And for them to do that and the way they did that, maybe he really is that good.
Yeah.
And maybe Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten because I haven't been able to answer that question all season.
No.
And you know who also thinks he's hot stuff? Indiana.
I knew you were going there.
But he already said, hey, I'm happy at Michigan, and I can't blame him.
He said he's happy at Michigan. He didn't say he wouldn't leave Michigan.
Well, I know who isn't.
Look at
the
trust
best
issues
team.
over here, huh?
I know who isn't the best team in the Big Ten, and it's Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana's got a lot of issues. All right, we got one for me. All right, let's see what we got.
What do we got for you? Ring me.
Ring me. Ooh. Okay. Well, there's only one to go with the UConn Huskies here, right?
Yeah.
Going for the three-peat. And Dan Hurley, by the way, if you haven't seen the video, spectacular video of Dan Hurley saying 2 rings, Baldy, at Creighton.
Right. What do you got against Scout, man?
I mean, he was coming after you, Lyles.
Right,
Were you at Creighton? Was he yelling at you?
No, because if he would have started, I would have finished.
He even continued going on into the tunnel. He was like firing up nobody.
Not a great week for three-peats, by the way.
Yes, yeah. No, good point.
Yeah.
Never fails to be in character.
No, he's always on it.
Always.
All right, last one for you, Lenardi. We got Hug Me. Hug Me. So, I don't know, who's not meeting your expectations?
2 years out of the last 3, borderline disaster, blue blood, North Carolina.
What is going on? Yeah.
I mean, playing for their season today at the former Carrier Dome.
That is for their season, right?
I mean, next 4 out, and that's generous. 7 and 6 in the ACC would normally mean you're right in the conversation, if not in the field. But we all know that's not the case with the ACC right now. Like, Carolina has to win, and I have absolutely no confidence that they will.
Okay. Those are our conversation hearts. That was fun to do. But we got some pressing coming out here at 12.
First of all, I never knew that's what they were called.
What do you think they were called?
I don't know.
Yeah, I also, until
Pink
we started
chalk?
I had to look it up too.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Conversation hearts.
Because conversation hearts would imply that we are,
Well, I think they start
having
a conversation.
Be the hearts. Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe it doesn't. Not always.
I'm just going to say, at my age, if that's how you're starting the conversation, you're already way behind.
The NCAA is going to start some probably hotly debated conversation when they release their 1 through 16 here at 12:30 Eastern Time. Joe Lenardi is all over it. Joe, this is a 2-part question. How much should we pay attention to these rankings? Like, how much do they matter? And 2, what do you think we should be looking out for most in these rankings?
Probably be hypocritical of me to say they don't matter, right? Yeah. And they have been telling to a degree, but understand why we have it. It's really a new orientation session for the new committee members. They go out and they go through part of the process, and they learn the software, and they sit in the room and do the voting and the staggered tabulations that go into the actual process in a month. So it's a dry run and a good one. But I mean, we're not going to see any surprises. If you like the SEC, you're going to be really happy. Mm-hmm. And if you like the Big 12, you're going to be pretty happy. I'll be curious to see what they do with the 4th number 1 seed, Florida, Tennessee, Purdue, Houston. And I think that there's 14 or 15 locks on that top line. I think, St. John's, Mississippi, Michigan State.
Marquette, maybe.
Marquette for those last couple. But as I know, as well as those new committee members will find out, they're going to do it at 12:30, and by 3 o'clock, it's time to take out the eraser.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see. I know, people like to knock numbers, especially if they don't, fit whatever they want to see. But this, like you said, it matters. And so this is going to be, something that if you are a college basketball fan, you need to be locked into this at 12:30.
This committee, by the way, they look at the numbers, all of them. You're
big
talking
time,
about
right.
the KenPom, the Tor, like all of these predictive metrics,
More
right?
than ever.
More than ever.
In my studying of it.
And that obviously you take into the consideration of these teams and resumes, right? It's one of the reasons why Auburn wasn't moved off the 1 line by the AP voters.
They're ranking resumes more than anything else. Now, we can argue whether that's good or bad as a process, but, I like to tell folks my job is to say what and how they're going to do it, as opposed to my opinion or your opinion about where a certain team should be ranked. We've got guys on air all day giving those opinions. We're the process nerds, and throw that and a conversation heart into it. And
I got last question.
You are a big time draw.
Yeah.
Last question for you, Joe, before we get you out of here. The game today between Alabama and Auburn. Let's say Auburn picks up another loss. Mm-hmm. Their resume, you could make an argument, Joe.
Still good and still first, but I will move them to 2.
You would move them to
Yes.
2? Okay.
Only because at some point, there is a common sense element of this. And my dad always used to say, there's never enough common sense to go around. And that goes heavy in my mind over these next 4 weeks.
Yeah, common sense. Nothing that we have on this show either.
No, I certainly don't.
And knowing that they're going to play at least once more, and maybe again, on
maybe
that,
4 times.
Yeah, they could be playing championship weekend for the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, just the one of many this year. It's going to be great to watch again, 4 Eastern time on ESPN. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm, Harry Lyles Jr., Joe Lenardi, and our wonderful crew. I'm Sam Ravech. Head on over to ESPN to catch a fresh 2-hour edition of College Game Day. We'll see you next week.
Go Birds. Ah!